Kelly File follow-up tonight with a stunning revelation in the trial of the Baltimore Six. The Baltimore Sun is now reporting that the grand jury, which indicted the 6 officers that you see on your screen, may have been misled about the case from the very beginning and the facts surrounding the death of suspect Freddie Gray. That claim is based on notes from the police department's lead investigator, who says that she told jurors exactly what the prosecution wanted her to tell them, despite the fact that it did not line up with her own findings. Trace Gallagher, live with the background on this story tonight from our West Coast newsroom. Trace.
Hey, Martha, in the wake of Officer Caesar Goodson's acquittal on second-degree murder charges, there are now repeated calls for State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby to drop the charges against the remaining officers. But a new report is now calling into question why the trials went forward in the first place. The Baltimore Sun has obtained and published case notes, information they received anonymously but verified independently. In those notes, lead detective Danielle Taylor states that the evidence she read to grand jurors deciding whether to indict the officers was misleading, writing, and I'm quoting, "As I read over the narrative, it had several things that I found to be inconsistent with our investigation, and I thought the statements in the narrative were misquoted." But Taylor felt conflicted about questioning the information given to her by the deputy state's attorney, so she went forward. But when the jurors asked her questions like, was Freddie Gray's arrest legal, prosecutors intervened before she could answer, with Taylor writing, quote, "They did not intend for me to answer any questions because all of my answers would obviously conflict with what I had just read to them." The case notes don't say exactly what evidence Taylor considered misleading, but experts say it's unheard of for a state's attorney's office to provide investigators with prepared statements. Normally, detectives and prosecutors work together to present a case. The Baltimore Sun also published an op-ed calling the report disturbing, saying that the cardinal duty of a prosecutor is to refrain from prosecuting a charge that they know is not supported by probable cause. The paper is now demanding a formal investigation, Martha.
Very troubling. Trace, thank you. Joining me now with reaction, Kevin Jackson, Fox News contributor and executive director of theblacksphere.net. Daryl Parks is a former attorney for both Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown's families. Good to have both of you with us. Daryl, let me start with you. What's your reaction to what you just heard?
Well, I think we have to be very careful here, because what we do know is that prosecutors enjoy very, very wide immunity when it comes to cases like this. I think it's also very important that this particular detective was not very specific as to what she did not agree with that the prosecutor presented. I think it's also very noted here that this particular officer was asked to get off the case by the prosecutor's office, and the police department declined. Obviously, there's a big rift that exists between the police department and the prosecutor's office. Certainly, you have to question whether this particular detective should have been on this case. Notwithstanding that, there's also a difference of opinion that the medical examiner in this particular case said that the death was a homicide, and this detective said in her notes that it was an accident. So I think you have to question the truthfulness and where these comments are coming from in this case.
I mean, the case so far, the people that have been tried so far, it's been falling apart. And that's what's raising a lot of serious questions here about this case. And you think back to Mike Nifong in the Duke case, he was disbarred and jailed for misrepresenting the evidence and lying about the evidence. We're not saying that that's what's happening here, but there is the potential, if people were misled on that grand jury, for some action against Marilyn Mosby. Is there not, Kevin?
Well, the operative thing that Daryl started out by saying is we have to be very careful here. And what's interesting is that we have to be very careful when it's the other side that's being looked at. They weren't being very careful when they decided they were going to prosecute these 6 officers. And quite frankly, a lot of people look at this and say, why did it was almost like they just said, you know, let's throw the proverbial crap against the wall and see what sticks. And now we decide that he's talking about, let's be careful. They should have been more deliberate when they were looking at this case in the beginning and deciding on who really might be at fault, and making a determination about who really should be prosecuted, because as we've seen, 3 of them are now innocent or have been found innocent, and 3 others are probably going to be dismissed because their cases are less than those.
I just want to take a moment to show everybody Marilyn Mosby, when she first came forward very forcefully and made her statement about what she felt had transpired. She talked about the youth of the city. Let's listen to that part.
The findings of our comprehensive, thorough, and independent investigation, coupled with the medical examiner's determination that Mr. Gray's death was a homicide, which we received today, has led us to believe that we have probable cause to file criminal charges. To the youth of this city, I will seek justice on your behalf. This is a moment. This is your moment.
Yeah, Daryl, that's the part that confuses me. I don't know why it's a moment for the youth of the city. It's a case that has to be determined to be accurate and true or not. Why is it a moment for the youth of the city?
It's a moment because Marilyn Mosby has seen and been a part of Baltimore for a long time. And she has seen that the police department of Baltimore has victimized many other youth in that city. And so it's gone on for so long.
And, you know, I mean, this is an individual
it's very
case.
Relevant.
It's an individual case that has turned out so far to be falling apart. I got to jump in very quickly, Kevin. Last 20 seconds.
No, it's completely irrelevant because Mosby had been in that role for a long time. So had Mosley. So had Shelby Blake, or I'm confusing who I'm talking about, but the mayor. So if it was anybody who was making a mistake here, Stephanie Rawlings Blake, it was those people that were in charge. So how is it suddenly a miscarriage of justice?
We got to go. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll be right back.